This is Louis Four. So this is one of the great American photographers, very influential. He was completely insane. If you don't know his work, look it up. It's really important. Brilliant man. This is one of his early photographs, 1938.
Hi there. Louis Faurer shared a studio with Robert Frank, as well as a distrust in the post-war American dream myth. Together they wandered the streets of New York with their cameras and peered beneath the optimistic fiction presented by magazines like Life. Frank later said that Faurer's vision helped him to shape his own, that without him the Americans might have looked very different. Both were outsiders, recent immigrants to the city's photography scene. Faurer was from Philadelphia and Frank was from Switzerland. Together they opened the door to subjective photography, creating photographs that acknowledged the photographer's presence within the images. The big names that followed, Garry Winogrand, Diane Arbus, and Lee Friedlander, all worked within this space, viewing the street as a psychological landscape. The influence between Frank and Faurer was a two-way street. Frank came from a European documentary tradition and brought a kind of structural understanding and narrative awareness. He was familiar with the idea of incorporating sequence and story to broaden his social inquiry. Faurer was a few years older than him and had already begun to develop an experimental looseness and lyricism in his work. In the end, Frank achieved recognition while Faurer remained in the background as a quiet influencer. But Frank never forgot the impact that Faurer had on his work. He once said, "Louis saw the city as I felt it, lonely, tender, and full of people who had lost something." After studying drawing, Faurer started his professional path by creating advertising posters. He would also sketch caricatures of people visiting the Atlantic City boardwalk. In 1937, he bought his first camera, a used Kodak Velenda. Not long afterwards, he won a prize in a weekly photo contest run by a Philadelphia newspaper. It seems quite unbelievable now to think that such a minor achievement could be enough for him to consider a career in photography. He made his way to Manhattan and stepped into the world of fashion. He was hired by Junior Bazaar, and that's where he met Frank, who invited him to share his loft together with 9 cats. Faurer wasn't really interested in reportage or photojournalism like most of the other photographers that surrounded him. He said that he had an intense desire to record life as he saw it. Fashion for him seemed the most appealing route to fund his own photographic explorations. His personality had a few rough edges, and he was really exacting about how he wanted his work to be presented. He often fought with magazine editors and printers. He did receive a few assignments from Life magazine, but he wasn't all that interested, because he said the jobs often required him to do too much travel. When he was finally given a solo show at Light Gallery in New York, he chose not to attend the opening. Rather, he picketed outside, protesting that the gallery's 30% was far too high. His prints were only selling for around $300. So his prickly character didn't really help him or his career. He was always thought of as a photographer's photographer.
He would only print at night. He'd come to my studio at 10 at night. He didn't like to be seen during the day. So you'd print from dark, 9, 8, 9, till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And then you'd go to the diner and eat. And then very often Louis would take the prints and sit under the table and look at them in the dark in the diner because he liked the light that was under there. I learned so much from him. I mean, it was madness. No one in the world could print for him more than 2 days in a row. I did it for 20 years.
Faurer was a key member of the New York School of Street Photographers that was active from the 1930s to the 1950s. It was a loosely defined group that included William Klein and Frank. They rejected traditional documentary styles and preferred 35mm cameras. Faurer's experimental approaches were of great interest to the photographers around him. He would use multiple techniques to obscure perfection. He believed that imperfection within an image allowed him to capture deeper truth. He didn't have the purist confines of the documentarians. He would play with blur, grain, double exposure, sandwich negs, reflections, slow film speeds, and unconventional framing. He saw these approaches as tools to convey narrative and mood.
But I mean, this light isn't real, right? This is Times Square, which is where he photographed mostly. This is 1950s film, so there were no high-speed films then, right? So it was high-speed developers. And then the fog in the background, or the mist in the background, I mean, that goes dead black, right? Because there's no light there. And so just in terms of manipulating the print, holding that back, so you have this tremendous sense of depth in the picture, and the brightness of these women in the car, and the guy smiling back here. This is stuff that just informed me printing for everyone else for the next 30 years. Because yes, you can in fact do anything you want to do. That's all. There really are no rules.
Look at these 1950s photographs of Robert Frank and his new wife, Mary. They're a good example of his innovative experiments. In these shots, he chose a very shallow depth of field and used reflections and light fogging. The results are intimate and romantic without being overly sentimental. Edward Steichen chose an image from this series for his Family of Man exhibition. One can see many of Faurer's ideas appearing in the work of photographers that followed. He would often seek out reflections to emphasize the fragmented nature of people's lives in cities. One could curate a whole volume of Lee Friedlander's images that used this technique. While other photographers would bend over backwards to get themselves out of a shot, Faurer felt that his inclusion emphasized the subjective nature of photography. The process of taking photographs for him was deeply personal. Vivian Maier made a habit of producing self-portraits by using reflections. There was a quiet humanity about his photographs. He maintained an undercurrent of empathy for those who were out of step with the world. He would seek out tender moments, lovers snatching brief moments of intimacy, or gestures of closeness within otherwise lonely urban settings.
This is called Penn Station Lovers. One of my absolute favorite pictures of his. The light in the upper right, we were making the print, and a prints with Louis would take days to make, right? So, I mean, this took 3 days because he could never get the crop right, he could never get the balance right. The depth was always a problem. How much detail should be in the newsstand behind? Finally, when we got the print right, he sticks his finger in the upper right, his hand, to make that light. That light does not exist. The print was right. Something that no one would really consciously do making a print photographically. It's like, that was the thing. So if you take your hand and just block that, the drama, right, in the print becomes so much less without that light being in there.
In this shot, deaf-mute, a man has stopped a young woman on the street, probably seeking some form of assistance. Her expression is heartbreakingly caring, but there's also an acknowledgement that she will never really fully understand his difficulties. Subjects like the nerdy identical sisters in his pictures twins, they're not isolated as oddities in the same way as Diane Arbus might have seen them. They're just part of the crowd. Even though Faurer had a gift for finding the lonely figures, he points them out in a gentle manner. This picture, Eddie, New York, is a sympathetic shot. He's exposing a kind of human sweetness within a man who has an intellectual disability. The man's frailty is reflected in the tender manner in which he clutches the delicate flowers. Here's another example of a very human moment. A wife is patting down her husband's hair in an attempt to hide his bald head. Faurer was probably particularly sensitive to this scenario because he too was bald. This is one of his most haunting and well-known images. It was taken in 1951 at the junction of Lexington and 52nd Street. He called the picture Accident primarily because it recorded a moment after a car accident. You can see a chalk outline with a blood stain just to the right of the young boy, and this indicates where the body lay. But the picture only managed to achieve its full complexity when he re-exposed the film by running it through the camera for a second time. On the right-hand side, you can see elements from a wedding scene, and they create an interesting counterpoint to the roadside drama. In the photojournalistic world, this would have been considered a fake, but for Faurer, it holds a poetic truth that is extremely revealing about the complex lives of humans as well as their fragility. The picture was also, ironically, a psychological self-portrait. It was a car accident that ended Faurer's career in 1984. In 1968, he abandoned New York, the scene of most of his successful work, for personal and financial reasons. He wanted to escape trouble with the Internal Revenue Service as well as with his wife. He worked briefly in London and then in Paris, but he struggled to find his rhythm, managing to only get a few fashion assignments from magazines like Elle and French Vogue. When he returned to New York at the age of 58, he again found it difficult to fit in. He saw that photography had been embraced by galleries, and he wasn't happy to see that it had become a commodity within the international art market. He was also a bit careless about managing his legacy. Most of his prints and negatives from his fashion work were lost because Faurer stored them with a friend when he went to France and never bothered to reclaim them again. In 1984, while running to catch a New York cab, he was struck by a car and seriously injured. He never photographed again or achieved any widespread recognition during his lifetime. He continually had money troubles and died in a nursing home in 2001. This 1948 shot of Faurer's son, Mark, behind the wheel of a Plymouth was strangely pathetic because Mark drove a cab in New York for 25 years. A year after his death, the Houston Museum of Fine Arts produced a major show and book. The foundation established by Robert Frank donated $100,000 to support this effort. Another retrospective exhibition and monograph published by Steidl was initiated by the foundation Henri Cartier-Bresson. In the end, it was his fellow photographers who appreciated him most, and eventually brought his pictures to a wider audience. I hope you enjoyed his work, and I'll see you next time.